Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all keeping safe and well and that 2024 has got off to a good start for you. This is my first monthly roundup of the year, covering the second half of January and then all of February because Christmas spilled over into the first half of January, so I dealt with that in my previous favourites post. And there wasn't much point in doing a post just for the last couple of weeks of January, so I thought I'd wait until now to catch up on things. Obviously it's been relatively quiet compared to Christmas, not quite so much to mention here. I did have a couple of outings though with friends of mine to do some interesting things, which I'll mention. There are a few other walks I went on as well that I won't talk about, just little wanders around London that I like to do. It's good to get a bit of exercise like that again. But yeah, a couple of outings I will mention, and then there's various things I've been watching and listening to at home as well then. So there's a few dramas I've been enjoying that have been quite hard hitting in a few cases, and then there's some comedies and a couple of other bits and pieces as well. So there's stuff in here that's been recommended by friends, and there's also a few things in here that are PR related as well, but all opinions are my own regardless. So there's a bit of a variety in here as per usual, so I hope there's something of interest in there. And of course there's more information in my blog post as per usual. So yeah, let's just crack on with it, and I hope you enjoy it. So my first big outing after all the Christmas stuff was with my friends Claire and fellow members of the Vocalise user panel as we went to the National Portrait Gallery to try out the audio described guide for their Meet the Portraits tour there. And we gave feedback on that guide to the museum staff, who were very happy and keen to receive feedback from us, which is just as well because we had a lot of it. There was a lot of work that needed doing on the guide in various ways, and we have since had acknowledgement back that they've acknowledged a lot of the issues that we raised with it, and they're working on ways to fix different things. So they are keen to make things accessible. I get that impression, which is great, and it'll be nice to go back there at a later date and just see the improvements they've made and things like that. But I'd never actually explored the portrait gallery before, so it was interesting to go in there anyway and to see some of the nice paintings they have in there. So being the portraits tour, we obviously saw various people, including Queen Elizabeth I, William Shakespeare, Ada Lovelace, Bronte sisters, Oscar Wilde, and there's even a portrait of showing footwear of the Spice Girls as well. So there's quite a variety of stuff in there. We only kind of saw a little snapshot of some of the things that were there. Obviously we weren't there for that long. It'd be nice to go back and explore in more detail. So yeah, it's a lovely museum that I did quite like it in there. It just needs work in terms of navigation and audio guides and things like that, but the actual exhibits they have are beautiful. So yeah, once they make it more accessible, it'll be really nice to explore that in more detail. And in fairness, they do have other audio described tracks and some audio described films on their website, so they are making an effort, but there are definitely some areas where it needs more work, and I'm glad that they're looking at that. And then my other big social outing was with my friend and colleague Emily Davison, and I've been her support worker for over a year now, which is wonderful. We make a great team, and I made a special blog post and video recently marking the milestone and talking about how we arrange things under Access to Work so I get paid, and the type of things I do for her in the job, and the PR perks I get as a result of doing the job with her. And I also mentioned some of the radio shows I listen to while I'm working as well on BBC Sounds, and paid tribute to the late great Steve Wright in the process. But anyway, our latest outing was to a couple of places that again she'd had PR invites for to go and review. So we started off by going to a cafe called The Table, and we ate from their brunch menu where I had a delicious stack of their Very Berries waffles, which were topped with strawberries, blueberries, summer berries sauce, creme fraiche and maple syrup, which were really nice, really generous portion sizes. And Emily had some of their pancakes, which she also really liked as well. And we had some tasty hash browns on the side and a refreshing raspberry bramble cocktail to drink. So that filled us up very nicely. And then after that, we got a bus over to Battersea Power Station where we took part in their Lift 109 experience, which takes you up to the top of one of their huge chimneys so you can enjoy a 360-degree view of London from up high, which is really beautiful. It was raining that day, and yet London still looked impressive, as it always does, whatever the weather. So we really enjoyed that. You get about 10 minutes up there to have a good look around, and there are some QR codes where you can get information and an augmented reality experience where it points out what some of the buildings are. But I tried it briefly, but it was too difficult to see being visually impaired. But I did take lots of photos, as did Emily, of course. And because it is only 10 minutes, there are a few little bits and pieces on the way to that experience. So you start off in a little exhibition space. We get to find out some information about the power station and stuff like that. And then there's a kind of a room where the walls are kind of filled with an animation all about the power station and things. So it's a bit of a gimmick, but it's quite impressive, and again gives you some nice information about the building. And then you have to kind of go up a short flight of steps to get to the lift inside the chimney. There is a step-free route, so there is a lift that wheelchair users can use, but you have to book that in advance. It's a very small lift, so only a couple of people can go in there at any one time. So yeah, there are those couple of bits and pieces tacked on at at the start of the experience just to pad things out, but they're also good because they do give you extra information and context about the building. It is a very impressive space, and the view, as I say, is beautiful as well. So it's not something I'd do again necessarily, but it's well worth doing the once, so you can get some photos and video clips up there and learn a bit about the power station. So yeah, it's good to do. So moving on to dramas now, and there are one or two topics in here that are a bit sensitive and might be triggering for some people because they are quite difficult and uncomfortable to deal with. So if you want to skip on at any point, do of course feel free. There are timestamps in the description below if you want to skip to other sections. That's absolutely fine. And indeed, some of you might want to do so for this first bit, which is a production about domestic abuse. So skip on now if you don't want to hear anything about that. Go to 9:30 if you want to skip this. But this is a production by a company called Extant, called Unseen. And Extant are a group of visually impaired performers and theatre practitioners. I've reviewed shows by them before and done interviews with people who have been involved in those productions before. And this is a particularly important one because it deals with the domestic abuse of visually impaired people. And it's an audio drama and is a very effective one as well. It basically focuses on a couple of characters, Lucy and Jolly, who suffer domestic abuse in different ways. Lucy kind of loses the independence that she's enjoyed for much of her life, despite being blind. She's able to get around by herself, do things by herself, but then she meets someone who gradually erodes that independence from her. Whereas Jolly kind of is not allowed to have the independence in the first place. She's kind of persuaded that she's useless at all that and isn't capable of it when actually she is. So yeah, very different circumstances, and the abuser in one case is male, the abuser in the other case is female. It is also emphasised towards the end of the drama that there are also male victims as well, and that indeed victims can come from any walk of life. There's no one particular pattern for who becomes a victim. Anyone can be a victim, and it basically emphasises the fact that it is ordinary innocent people. These central characters are just ordinary people who could be your friends or colleagues, your relatives, your neighbours, anyone like that. So yeah, it is difficult to listen to, but they've been careful not to make it too heavy either. It actually starts off relatively light at the beginning when you get to meet Lucy and she talks about her life, and there's little bits of humour in there, but it does gradually get more serious. And there are a couple of pivotal incidents in particular which compel both of them to try and reach out for help, but it's incredibly difficult, because they don't have any self-confidence by that point. They're very scared of the consequences if they try to do anything. They don't even know if any help's available out there. They don't know what help they could get. They don't know if anyone will listen to them. There's so much going on, so much mental conflict that it's so difficult for them. And you are kind of willing them on to kind of get the help they need. And you do kind of feel helpless as well. You kind of want to reach out and help them, just like you do with people in real life. In real life, you often don't know that people are suffering because they hide it behind closed doors. So yeah, it is a difficult listen, but it's also not too heavy either. They are careful not to kind of do anything extreme for shock value. There isn't anything too graphic in the details there. Even with the two incidents I'm thinking of, they don't go too deep into the details. There's enough there for you to kind of form a picture yourself. So it's really well acted and really well directed as well. And the sound design is excellent as well. It really helps to bring it to life and emphasize key points as well. In particular, there's a kind of echoey breathing type motif which kind of reoccurs to emphasize certain points and scenes. Often it forms a juncture between scenes where you learn some more facts, because this is all based on a report called the Unseen Report by the Vision Foundation, which is using research commissioned from Safe Lives. And it has some quite shocking statistics in there. For example, at least 1 in 12 visually impaired people in the UK, around 188,000 visually impaired people, are a victim or a survivor of domestic abuse. That's a lot of people. And less than 1 in 5 domestic abuse professionals have had specialist training to support visually impaired victims or survivors. So yeah, there's statistics like that throughout there that show a lot more work needs to be done. But then again, it's also not saying that there isn't hope either. If you do reach out, there is help out there. You're certainly not alone by any means, and that is proven in this drama. But there is more work that needs to be done to make things easier. You can get help, but it can be more accessible, so it can work much faster. So yeah, it's really powerful. It's really impactful. It's absolutely well worth a listen. I'd say it's vital to listen to it, really. And as I say, if you're affected by any of those issues, there are support links in the post at the bottom of my review post. I'll also link to that in my description below as well. So yeah, if you do need support for that kind of thing, the help is out there. You will be listened to. There is absolutely hope. There is absolutely a pathway out of the situation that you are in. So don't be afraid to reach out. I know it's easier said than done, but if you can reach out, even if it's just a little bit at a time, like as is illustrated in the drama, then yeah, the help is there. So then the other dramas I want to mention are ones that I've watched on TV. And the first one, of course, inevitably, because everybody else has been watching it and talking about it, is Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. And this kind of passed me by at the beginning of January, but then the headlines blew up around it. Of course, everybody was talking about it on social media, and my best mate Simon highly recommended it to me as well because he'd watched it. So I did catch the repeat on ITV1 later in the month, and yes, it is very, very good. Very shocking as well, but very well made because it is like the Unseen audio drama I mentioned just now, very realistic and accessible, and relatable. It's not, sensationalized or anything like that. And here these are actors playing real people. These are real stories being told. And yeah, it's just unbelievable. In essence, if you really don't know about the post office scandal, perhaps if you're overseas, then basically the sub-postmasters who run the post offices had this New Horizon computer system installed, and it was just buggy and didn't work properly, and it meant they were losing money from their accounts. And all these postmasters were trying to kind of ring the helpline and get assistance to try and balance the books again because they knew they weren't losing money, but the system said they were. And instead of trying to fix the issue, the post office prosecuted hundreds of them and they were convicted. They persuaded the courts that these people were all fraudsters, and many of them went to jail. Many of them went bankrupt. Their families broke up. Some of them committed suicide. It's just unfathomable how awful it got. And as much as I was kind of vaguely aware of it in the news before, because it had been reported in various places before, but to actually see it happening in this way actually really does bring it home. And just when you think things can't get any worse, the post office throw another twist in there to make it even worse. They were so determined to protect their reputation and prosecute people and just not face justice for it. And even relatively recently, they're still trying to put themselves in a good light. Even with this drama, I think they tried to change the story to work more in their favour, but it's just awful. And it's taken this drama to spur the government on to try and do something about getting these people compensation. Even then, it's taking a while and they're not getting the money that they really deserve in a timely fashion, but at least things are moving more than they were. So yeah, I highly recommend watching that because it just amazes you, really. You just can't believe a lot of it, but it is all true. So yeah, really well made and very effective. It just shows how powerful drama is as a medium. It's had so much impact that everybody knows about it, everybody's talking about it. And then after that, in February, ITV broadcast another drama that was about real life events, and this was called Breathtaking, and it was about the NHS, how they coped during the first year of the pandemic. And again, this is quite shocking. We knew how they were struggling, we're all aware of it, and we also knew how incompetent the government was. We knew how ill prepared they were in terms of a lack of PPE and the guidelines changing all the time. They just didn't know what they were doing. They were completely unprepared for it. And we really see the impact on the NHS here, and it is absolutely, breathtaking as the title implies, but also heartbreaking as well, because they have to make some really tough decisions, about who they treat and who lives and who dies. And even one of their own dies of COVID, and it's just so distressing for them. And I've already had a lot of respect for everyone who works in the NHS, particularly during that time, and this just increases it all the more because what they had to go through was just horrific. So again, it's well worth watching. And then the other drama I want to mention isn't about raising awareness of heavy issues or anything like that. It's purely about entertainment this time, and it's called Lupin or Lupin. It's a French drama on Netflix, which was recommended to me by my good friend Claire. And it's really good. It's really slickly made and visually impressive. It's set in Paris, so the scenery is amazing. And there's lots of humour in there and action and twists and turns and all sorts of different things you'd expect from a good drama. So I really enjoyed watching it. It's basically about a guy called Assane Diop, who is a gentleman thief and a very expert thief as well. He can steal things right under people's noses, regardless of how much security there is around them. He's got his techniques really well down. And that's because he bases his techniques on the books of a guy called Lupin, who is a gentleman thief. But also there is a detective who is also a fan of the books as well. So it's kind of a game of cat and mouse there, which is quite fun. So that kind of carries through all three series that are currently there. There might be a fourth series in the future, hopefully. But certainly in each of these three series, there's a story arc in each case. In the first series, Assane is trying to get revenge for the death of his father, who had been unlawfully imprisoned. And there was some sort of conspiracy there and stuff. I'm not going to give spoilers away, but his actions there basically dovetail into further events that happen in the second series and the third series. So there's a continuing story there at the heart of it all. But some of the individual kind of thefts that he has to do and the information he gathers along the way are really impressively done. So yeah, it's a bit of a hidden gem on Netflix, and I'm glad I was pointed towards that. Thank you, Claire. And the audio description on there is very useful as well, and the English dubbing is very well performed too. It's not always well done in some shows, but the dubbing there was very nicely done. So Yeah, well worth watching. So moving on to comedy, and apart from the usual stuff I watch, like QI and The Last Leg, that kind of thing, there are a couple of big blog posts I made recently reviewing a couple of things that I bought. So most prominently, there's Blackadder, the Blu-ray box set that came out last year. That's really good. It's got all the series and specials, all the old extras from the previous DVD set, and a whole wealth of new extras as well, with new commentaries and audio rarities and rare interview footage, and also raw studio recordings, which are fascinating to watch, as if you're in the audience in a way, kind of watching the episodes being filmed, and raw film footage as well from they shot on location, and other little bits and pieces as well. It's really well put together. It's the same team with Richard Latto that put together the Young Ones Blu-ray I reviewed a while back, a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's really comprehensive. It's really good. The only thing they couldn't get hold of was the pilot, which is a great shame. But otherwise, everything is there. All the episodes and specials have been remastered. The Millennium Special in particular has been remastered to HD. It looks really impressive. And yeah, it's just really well put together. So much stuff on there. So I'm glad I've got that, and I can replace my old DVD set with that new Blu-ray set. And then the other item I reviewed was Dad's Army, the missing episodes on DVD, which contains the animated recreations of the 3 missing episodes and 2 Christmas sketches that were shown on Gold last year. And I kind of have mixed feelings about them. I mean, the episodes themselves are great, but the animation isn't as good as I would kind of hoped it to be. You can recognise the characters well enough, but they're not really as lifelike as perhaps I'd like them to be, especially given the technology that's available. But at least they have given us these original episodes in some form, rather than the remade episodes they did a little while back. You know, I've got rid of the DVD I bought of those now, because that had a completely different cast and everything, and just was never as good as, you know, no new cast could ever be. But yeah, they've done the best they can with these episodes. It does the job well enough. And there's some nice extra features on there as well, in fact, so they're well worth getting the DVD for alone. In particular, there's a newly colorized version of Room at the Bottom, which looks quite good. And there's also, you know, some making of stuff and deleted scenes and things and other little bits and bobs. So yeah, it's well worth getting for the extra features, if nothing else. But, you know, the animated episodes are nice to have as well, especially like the rare Christmas sketches alongside them. I just wish the animation quality was a bit better, given what I know technology can do today. But beggars can't be choosers. At least we have them in some form. So that's good in that respect. And then on TV, Michael McIntyre's Big Show has returned for his 7th run. And I think he's actually improved a little bit this series in terms of some of the guests he has on there. There's been more people I kind of like on there. The Midnight Game Show was quite fun this time, particularly the one with Bradley Walsh, because there was a callback to a viral clip of him on The Chase where he had to ask a question where one of the answers was a lady called Fanny Schmeller, which really made him break down in giggles. And he actually got to meet her in this Midnight Game Show, which was quite amusing. He was quite shocked about that. Send to Wall was obviously still there as well, where Michael sends text messages to everybody in a celebrity's phone contact, you know, some embarrassing text message of some sort. So yeah, they were good sports, and I particularly enjoyed the ones with Joe Lycett, Dermot O'Leary and Catherine Ryan. They were quite fun. The unexpected stars were also good, as always. In particular, I was happy for one called Alfie Draper, who has a great singing voice and a wonderfully positive attitude to life, having worked so hard to overcome the difficulties from his cerebral palsy. So it was great to see him performing. It was very well done. But then he also kind of has tweaked the unexpected star segment for some episodes as well, to catch out actual singers, you know, actual famous pop stars. So we had Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet, Ricky Wilson from Kaiser Chiefs, and the one and only Chesney Hawkes. They were all kind of tricked into thinking they were going to something else, and then they were kind of revealed to be on stage and immediately had to perform, you know, one or two of their biggest hits. So that was quite fun, and it was quite nice that there were people that I kind of recognised as well, not modern pop stars whose songs I wasn't familiar with. These were well-known stars with well-known songs. So yeah, it's nice to have that back again for a Saturday night. That's good fun. I know Ant and Dec are back with Saturday Night Takeaway as well for what is the final series for the time being, but I kind of went off that a while back anyway, so I'm not bothering to watch that. And then also on Saturday nights, we've also had the return of Gladiators, which the BBC have revived, and this was a classic show on ITV back in the 90s I used to really enjoy watching. I had a brief revival on Sky at one point, but I never got into that. But yeah, it came back on the BBC. I wasn't sure if it would be any good or not, but actually, to be fair to them, they've done a really good job with it, because they haven't messed about with it too much. You know, you've got the original theme tune, you've got a lot of the original games, plus a few new ones that fit in quite nicely, and you know, you've got lots of characters among the gladiators. You know, some of them do deliberately play like the villain, so the crowd get booing, but ultimately there's great camaraderie there, you know, and support for one another, especially when some of the contestants get injured, which you do in a game of this nature. You know, there's lots of tough challenges, so injuries do occur, and they're very supportive and caring, you know, when that happens. And it's hosted by Bradley Walsh and his son Barney as well. Bradley Walsh is the more experienced presenter of the two, you can tell that, and the jokes between the two of them do fall a bit flat, to be honest, but they do a good enough job, and the referee and the commentator are very good too. And it's just, yeah, really good atmosphere. That show is good fun. It's good sportsmanship and everything. And they even had a visually impaired contestant on there as well with Nia Rutter, who is blind in one eye, but I didn't stop her getting through to the quarterfinals. She did very well, so big kudos to her for that. And then also in terms of sport, the other thing I've watched is the Beckham documentary on Netflix, which may come as a surprise as I don't like football, but my friend Claire recommended it to me, and she knows me really well, of course, so she knew I'd like it, and I did, because you don't have to be a fan of football to enjoy it. Beckham is a really nice guy. I've always had a lot of quiet respect for him, really. I've seen him here and there and doing bits and pieces. He was in a Fools and Horses sketch, he appeared with Ali G on Comic Relief, and, he appeared at the Olympics as well, all that kind of thing. So he's always come across as a nice, down-to-earth guy, and he's not a show-off. He just lives his life quietly. And yeah, it's really, really interesting and engaging, this documentary, because of how it's been put together. There's lots of great archive footage and photos and things, and lots of key people in his life are interviewed. This isn't somewhat unauthorised biography. This is a proper official documentary. So yes, it's got his control over it, so he kind of looks good, but there's a lot of talk about the harder issues and things, and he is very open and honest throughout. And so is Victoria as well. It's great to hear from Victoria Beckham quite a lot in that too, because I didn't know much about her either, so I learnt quite a bit about her too. And his parents are interviewed at length, as is Alex Ferguson, and players from Manchester United and Real Madrid, and various other people, who've been involved with Beckham's life in one way or another, even paparazzi. So it's really in-depth, really insightful. Altogether of the 4 episodes, it's about 5 hours. So yeah, it's really good, really interesting. I'm glad I watched that. It was a surprise, really, to me that I got into that as much as I did, but it was well worth it. And then finally, just to mention something music related, I also watched the National Lottery's Big Night of Musicals, hosted by Jason Manford, which was on again this year. And again, it had lots of great performances from some of my favourite musicals. There were things from Phantom of the Opera, Guys and Dolls, Wizard of Oz, Les Mis, Grease, and also a cameo appearance from a couple of the stars from Back to the Future as well. So there were quite a few productions in there that I'd seen in one form or another. And I also enjoyed the performances from Aladdin, Moulin Rouge, Mrs. Doubtfire, that kind of thing. So there's a great variety of shows in there, and hopefully it kind of encourages people to go to the theatre more. And that's it. That's all I have to mention. So I hope you enjoyed that as usual and found bits and pieces in there that are of interest to you. In terms of what's coming up, March is a very busy month. I've got a lot planned for March, a lot of stuff booked in, theatre shows and other things. So I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, there's going to be some interesting things to talk about in my next favourites post. I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope you have a great month in March too, whatever you have planned. But yeah, that is it for now. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as per usual, and I will see you for another video very soon. Bye for now.